Today on the Nick Craig Show, Tom Homan, the White House border czar, is on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota, talking to local officials as controversy continues between state and federal officials, plus snow across the weekend in North Carolina. We'll have all the details coming up. And a good Friday morning to you. Welcome into the Nick Craig Show, streaming live this morning on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. Don't forget that you can take the show with you 24/7 on demand by checking out the Nick Craig Show in your favorite podcast app. You can also listen online by visiting the website nickcraig.com. Our show this morning, as always, is brought to you by Melissa Gott and the amazing team over at the Law Group here in Wilmington. For any legal questions, issues, or concerns, visit them online at lawgroupnc.com or give them a call, 910-251-6088. Snow across North Carolina this weekend. It is all but certain at this point. We'll get into the timing and the totals, all of that as we roll through the program on this Friday morning. There is no question about it. There has been growing aggravation, growing concern, growing controversy over this administration's immigration enforcement operations that have continued across the United States. Over the last few weeks in Minneapolis, throughout the state of Minnesota, there have been two, what I'll call more flash pan events that has brought everything to the point that it is here right now. That was the Renee Good shooting, ICE-involved shooting there, and then just last weekend, another situation in which Alex Purdy was shot and killed by law enforcement members of ICE in Minneapolis. And so there's a couple of different threads with all of this, and we've gone through some of the details, we've worked out some of the information on it. There's two things going on here. A, you have the administration continuing to conduct operations that are lawful. Whether you like immigration and customs enforcement or not, the federal government, and we'll hear this from Tom Homan coming up, he held a press conference Thursday morning in Minneapolis. Federal officials, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they have the ability and the lawful ability to enforce immigration law. President Donald Trump ran a large part of his political campaign on enforcing said laws, and we are now seeing that play out in real time. We know in states like Minnesota, the individuals there don't like that. The local elected officials have continued to ratchet up the pressure, have continued to ratchet up the rhetoric, and it has reached a fever pitch, most recently with the situation last weekend with another ICE-involved shooting. One that I will contend, in large part, similar to the Renee Good situation, largely avoidable. You have got left-wing groups that are getting large amounts of funding from NGOs and other nonprofits that are tracking ICE agents throughout the state of Minnesota, tracking them throughout the city of Minneapolis. They are showing up. They are obstructing the work of law enforcement, and local officials up until this point have been actively working against those federal officials. They are not providing any sort of crowd control. They are turning the other way when they see situations that are unfolding. They are ignoring 911 calls. It is a very, very messy situation that has gotten to the point now where Donald Trump has brought in his border czar, Tom Homan, who, by the way, worked under the Obama administration as well, has now brought in Tom Homan, who has been on the ground in Minneapolis over the last couple of days to try and figure out how to move forward with these operations. And I made the point earlier this week on the show. This is not going to stop, nor should it. And when I say stop and what should, we're talking about these operations. There are potentially tens of millions of people that crossed into the United States illegally under the Joe Biden administration. Donald Trump ran an entire presidential campaign on cleaning that up. Individuals still overwhelmingly support the enforcement of federal immigration law. They do not support, however, what they deem and what the media portrays as excessive force by ICE. And there's a whole bunch of different factors, a whole bunch of circumstances that have led us to the position that we are right now. And in this Thursday morning news conference with Tom Homan, which I'll note started at 7 o'clock in the morning local time. So very early in the morning on the ground. Tom Homan, in an incredible portrayal of events, lays out the problem, lays out the situation, and more importantly, lays out the solutions as to how we move forward with this. Here's the Border Czar, Tom Homan, Thursday morning in Minneapolis.
I've been on the ground less than 3 full days. I got in here Monday. President of the United States called me Monday morning and asked me to deploy here. Got here Monday evening, and I'm staying till the problem's gone. But we've made a lot of progress in the last 3 days. Marcos Charles, he's running ICE operations here. There you go. Rodney Scott, Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, standing here beside me. Good morning, I'm Tom Homan, I'm the Border Czar for President Trump. I'm here on behalf of the President, along with U.S. Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Rodney Scott, and Marcos Charles, who's leading the enforcement effort here right now. I've been on the ground since Monday to regain law and order in the city beloved by many, and work together to remove threats from the community. During the past administration, we'll all remember, more than 10 million illegal aliens entered this nation. Many were national security threats, public safety threats. We can't remember over 2 million known gotaways. 2 million people who paid more to get away. Why? That should scare the hell out of everybody. President Trump promised the American people, including the residents of Minnesota, that he would work to ensure our communities are safe. And with that, this administration has absolutely focused on identifying removal aliens that pose a public safety threat and national security threats. And the numbers prove it. The data proves it. In the past few days, I've met with Governor Walz, Attorney General Ellison, Mayor Frey, numerous police chiefs and sheriffs, and I have more to meet. I'll also be continuing the dialogue with business and religious leaders in partnership with Minnesota, your community leaders. I'll be meeting with them too, because I want to hear what they have to say. In my meetings with folks so far, and most important, the governor and the AG, the Mayor Frey, we didn't agree on everything. I didn't expect to agree on anything. I've heard many people want to know why we're talking to people who they don't consider friends in administration. Bottom line is, you can't fix problems if you don't have discussions. I didn't come to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines. You haven't seen me. I came here to seek solutions, and that's what we're going to do. And we've come a long way, and we got some good wins for the people of Minnesota, I think, and for the administration and for the safety and security of this city.
You know, it's a great point there made by Tom Homan, the Border Czar in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Thursday morning, talking about how, well, the talk has to happen. The conversation has to happen. The dialogue has to happen. And we've seen it erode on both sides. From the earliest days of the ICE operations in the state of Minnesota, in the city of Minneapolis, immediately you had local and state officials, Governor Tim Walz, Mayor Frey of Minneapolis, standing up, going on national television, using bad words, which makes everybody seem tough and strong, that ICE is not allowed here, ICE is not going to continue here, we're not going to allow this to take place, so on and so forth. And so from the go, you had a situation in which neither side was communicating. Both sides dug in their heels, and it has led to the chaos that we've seen. And I have no problem sitting here and admitting that there's fault on both sides. Unlike the political left, I can look at a situation objectively and say, yeah, both parties probably screwed this up. Both parties maybe acting a little bit arrogant and selfishly, didn't want to have discussions, didn't want to have communications, decided that they were going to try and win this political battle through the media, through whatever means necessary, and it has led to the chaos. It has led to the confusion that exists. I don't have a problem admitting that as a conservative, as a Republican. You won't hear that, however, from the Democrats, right? They'll only point the finger at the Trump administration and say, this is all their fault. This is all they're doing. Our guys did nothing wrong. We didn't create any of this chaos. We didn't sow any of this division. We didn't do any of this stuff. That is the typical tact that is taken by the left, because the larger issue is they can't accept responsibility for any of their actions. They can't accept responsibility for anything that they do. As you've heard me say before, it's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's problem to deal with. And that has been the immediate reaction with this press conference from Tom Homan Thursday morning. That it's the administration accepting responsibility. It's the administration accepting fault. And we didn't do anything wrong. And I just don't subscribe and don't buy to that. As we continue with this press conference with the border czar, Tom Homan, who has been on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota throughout the entirety of this week, got on the ground. It was either Monday or Tuesday. He's talking about having dialogue with individuals that have been publicly at odds with each other, the administration, the ICE and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the officials in Minnesota, Waltz, Fry, and Attorney General Ellison. Those individuals have been very clearly bashing their heads together publicly. He has sat down with them. He is going to continue to sit down with them. And in this announcement, I mean, we've got some pretty significant concessions that seemingly have been made by state and local officials in Minnesota.
One thing we did agree on, though, everybody I talked to agreed on, was that community safety is paramount. One thing we all agreed on was U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a legitimate law enforcement agency that has a duty to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and keep this community safe. Like I've said many times for the last several years, even before this administration, jurisdictions that refuse to cooperate with federal immigration authorities are sanctuaries for criminals.
Amen.
Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals.
That point cannot be made any more times. I mean, we need to keep saying this because it's the God's honest truth. When you, as local officials, when you, as elected leaders, state publicly that you are going to allow individuals to break the law, which is what all of these sanctuary cities and all of these sanctuary counties and all these sanctuary states across the United States have done, when you say you're allowed to break the law, lo and behold, what happens? Individuals feel like, and in large part are, admonished from their responsibilities. They are allowed to break the law. They are allowed to do things that are illegal because they know there won't be any consequences. The greatest example of this is what you see in states like New York and California as it relates to shoplifting, where you can't, as a store owner or a store manager, even call the police to respond unless somebody's stealing over $1,000 worth of goods. They won't respond. They won't come. And so what's the result? People go into these stores, take a couple $100s worth of stuff, and just walk right out because the police aren't going to be called. You're not going to be charged. There are going to be no consequences for those actions whatsoever. Sanctuary city policies are incredibly detrimental to public safety, and Tom Homan is honing in on that, and he needs to continue to do so.
And endangers the residents of the community. To be clear, we did not agree with Minnesota state and local officials that they would be involved in immigration enforcement. I didn't ask them to be immigration officers. I'm asking them to be cops working with the cops to help us take criminal aliens off the street. What we did agree upon is not to release public safety arrests back in the community when they could be lawfully transferred to ICE. I'll speak more about that. I will highlight that the Minnesota State Prison System under the Department of Corrections have been honoring ICE detainers. And we appreciate that important collaboration, and we're going to expand upon that. That decision has made Minnesota safer, not only for residents of Minnesota, but the men and women law enforcement. Not just ICE, all law enforcement. Rather than arresting the same public safety threat, significant public safety threat over and over again, they agree to work with us to identify those people and remove them.
Let me explain the process that Tom Homan is playing out right here, because this has been a major topic in North Carolina as well. When he mentions an ICE detainer. So the way that this process rolls out, the best that I understand it, let's say you are illegally in the United States and you are found to be in violation of the law. You are committing a crime, whether it's driving intoxicated, some sort of assault, whatever the charge might be. Local police, whether that be a county or city police department, responds to a 911 call or pulls you over on the side of the road. You have an interaction as somebody who's illegally in the United States with local law enforcement. When the process goes forward, if you are arrested by those individuals, local law enforcement, you are then transported to some sort of processing, booking, jailing facility. It's kind of different in every municipality. At that point, if your immigration status cannot be determined, which would in large part mean that you are illegally in the United States of America, these local law enforcement entities contact the federal government and say, here is somebody who we cannot verify their citizenship. We cannot verify that they are legally in the United States. And then ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has the ability to levy what is called an ICE detainer, which is essentially a hold on that individual until ICE, federal law enforcement folks, can go to wherever this is taking place and take that individual potentially into custody. That has been a major political battle here in North Carolina. You've even seen the North Carolina General Assembly have to pass legislation to hold sheriffs like Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden accountable. Make it so that he is required to honor ICE detainers. And we have seen in many of these jurisdictions, in many of these states, local sheriffs and so on and so forth ignoring those ICE detainers. So you've got somebody who is illegally in the United States of America and, for argument's sake and for example's sake, assaults somebody, commits some sort of basic assault, is arrested on those charges, is charged for that. Federal authorities say, hey, hold that guy for, I think the limit is 48 hours, I believe is what the hold limit is. It might be more, might be less. Hold them for 48 hours. Immigration officials are going to come in and we're going to, of course, go after this individual because now they're a violent offender and they're illegally in the United States, which is exactly how this whole process is supposed to play out, right? There's all this argument that that ICE and the Trump administration is just roaming streets across the United States and taking people into custody. No, most of the work that's being done is coming through ICE detainers, is coming from working with local and state officials to get individuals who have already committed crimes outside of crossing the border illegally into federal custody. And it's unfortunate that individuals like Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden and other individuals across the country, most predominantly in stronghold Democrat areas, have decided that they are going to ignore those detainer requests. And as you just heard from Tom Homan, what is the end result of that? Now you have somebody who is a dangerous criminal who is already in the United States of America illegally, who's being released back out onto the street. So not only are they in the country illegally, but they've committed some sort of act that has gotten them arrested and potentially charged with a crime, and now they're back out on the streets. And what happens with that? Well, then ICE has to go through a city like you've seen in Minneapolis over the last couple of weeks and try and track down these people. The easy solution, as Tom Homan lays out, is to honor the ICE detainers, take these individuals in custody while they're in already a closed setting, which would be a jailhouse or a detention center or something like that. Instead, these blue municipalities, these blue sheriffs, these blue DAs are allowing these dangerous illegal criminals back out onto the streets, putting ICE in a significantly worse situation. And so fortunately, as Tom Homan lays out, that seemingly is now solved and fixed in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're continuing with this press conference Thursday morning from Tom Homan. He is the border czar. He was called into Minneapolis earlier this week to help deal with the ongoing immigration and customs enforcement operations throughout the vast majority of the city of Minneapolis. More from him as he continues his conversation and relaying his conversation with local and state officials to figure out how they can best work together to solve the very real problem that is illegal immigration throughout the U.S.
I'm also pleased to announce I had a very good meeting with Attorney General Ellison, and he has clarified for me that county jails may notify ICE of the release dates of criminal public safety risks so ICE can take custody of them upon the release from the jail. And let me tell you why that's important. I know people are a lot concerned about the manpower has been set in law enforcement manpower. Look, I've said this many times before. I've said it for the last several years. Give us access to the illegal alien public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. It's common sense. It's safer for the community, it's safer for the agent, and it's safer for the alien. Because anything can happen on a street arrest. It just makes common sense. And for the people that argue, well, we're a welcoming community because we want victims and witnesses of crime that are here illegally to feel safe to come to police without fear they're working with ICE, we're not going to talk to the victim and witness of crime. There's no problem there. They should feel safe to come to police and ask for help. All we want is to talk to the person that local and state law enforcement authorities locked in a jail cell. They chose to lock this person up. That's who we want to talk to, the public safety threat. So that argument is that protects victim witnesses of crime. It's a bunch of crap. Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy back in their neighborhood either. So great progress with the Attorney General and local sheriffs. And one thing, when we have these agreements, it takes less law enforcement agents to do the job. One agent can arrest one bad guy in the safety and security of a jail where he's behind the wire. We know he don't have weapons. But when you normally release that public safety threat, illegal alien back in the community, we have a job to do. We're going to arrest him. So we're going to find him. And what happens is now we got to arrest somebody on his turf. We have access to who knows what weapons. Now we got to send the whole team out. Cover the back door, cover the front door, officer safety reasons. Then because of the hateful rhetoric and the attacks on ICE officers, now we got to send a security team behind the arrest team. So what could have been done with one person in a safety and security jail, now we got 15, 16 people out there doing it.
Think about the point there that Tom Homan just made. If you had this better working relationship between the state and local officials and the federal government, which I'll note once again has the authority to enforce federal immigration law, which has been on the books now for decades, if that work was done in a more sufficient manner, as Tom Homan lays out, you can have just one or two officers do this kind of transfer of custody within a secure facility in a jail or a detention center versus what you're actually seeing play out on the streets right now, which is 30, 40, 50, 60 agents all over the place trying to arrest somebody. That's what you saw Saturday morning in Minneapolis last week, where you had federal immigration authorities going after an individual who they deemed was a public safety threat, who in fact was. They're trying to arrest him in and around a donut shop, and all hell breaks loose, where you've got a guy who's shot and killed. Completely preventable and completely avoidable. And I'm very happy to hear that it appears, and obviously we'll have to see if the actions actually meet the words, but I'm very happy to hear that these state and local officials are coming around on cooperating with these federal authorities. More from Tom Homan.
I know that causes stress in the community. So if we get these agreements in place, that means less agents on the street.
What a novel concept.
More agents in the jail means less agents in the street. This is common sense cooperation that allows us to draw down on the number of people we have here. Yes, I said it. Draw down the number of people here. Because we have the efficiency and safety of the jails and the prison. Matter of fact, I have staff from CBP and from ICE working on a draw-down plan. What does that look like based on the cooperation? What does that look like based on how many targets we have less to find? In my meetings with Governor Walz, A.G. Ellison, and Mayor Fry, as well as state and local law enforcement, again, I appreciate they all acknowledge that we do have federal immigration laws in this country that have been passed by Congress, and that ICE is in fact a legitimate law enforcement agency charged with enforcing those laws. We're not making this up, folks. ICE is enforcing laws enacted by Congress. They're a federal statute. That said, I'm not here because the federal government has carried this mission out perfectly. First thing I said to senior staff when I walked in here is what I told you earlier. I didn't come here looking for photo ops or headlines. I come here looking for solutions. I do not want to hear that everything's been done here has been perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. Anything can be improved on. And what we've been working on is making this operation safer, more efficient, by the book.
It appears blatantly obvious to me the reason that Tom Homan was sent to Minneapolis earlier this week. What a nice thing to hear, and an accurate and honest thing to hear, which is unfortunately not much of what you hear in these back and forths. Not everything has been conducted perfectly. There is room for improvement. We're hearing this now from the federal side. We're hearing this now directly out of the mouth of the Trump administration. And my question for you now is a pretty simple one. Will we hear these same comments from Governor Tim Walz in the coming days and weeks? Will we hear the same comments from the Attorney General in the coming days and weeks? Will we hear the same comments from the mayor of Minneapolis, Mayor Fry, in the coming days and weeks? Right? The federal government is now here publicly admitting that, hey, not everything is perfect, which is blatantly obvious to anybody that has watched what has unfolded. That's a good acknowledgement. That is the first step in the right direction, but it takes two to tango. And if these local officials are going to continue to ratchet up the pressure on federal law enforcement, then the situation is going to continue to remain incredibly chaotic. More from Tom Homan.
The mission is going to improve because of the changes we're making internally. No agency or organization is perfect. And President Trump and I, along with others in the administration, have recognized that certain improvements could and should be made. That's exactly what I'm doing here. As such, in meetings I've had with federal law enforcement managers, including ICE and CBP and other federal partners, as well as state and local officials, I have conveyed the President's expectations with regard to federal immigration enforcement efforts. We will conduct targeted enforcement operations. Targeted. What we've done for decades. When we hit the streets, we know exactly who we're looking for. Good idea where we may find them. You have a criminal history. You have their immigration history. A lot of information about this person that we get from numerous databases out there. Targeted, strategic enforcement operations.
Which is really all you can ask for. Targeted, strategic enforcement operations. That's what President Donald Trump promised to voters in 2024. He won an overwhelming majority of them, won 7 of 7 swing states, won the popular vote. It is blatantly obvious that that is what the American people support, and that's what the American people want, and obviously that is why Tom Homan was brought into this very chaotic situation in Minnesota. We'll have more from Tom Homan coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Plus, we'll take a look at this very interesting weekend forecast as the Nick Craig Show rolls on a Friday morning, streaming live on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. Before that, I want to tell you about the Law Group here in Wilmington. Thank them for their continued support of the program and remind you that when legal challenges arise, make sure you put your trust in the Law Group here in Wilmington. Since 2003, Melissa Gott and her experienced attorneys have provided high-quality, affordable legal services across the eastern half of our state. Whether you're facing a divorce, navigating a real estate transaction, or maybe you're in a position where you need a strong defense. If so, the Law Group has your back. Their dedicated team ensures that your questions are answered and issues are resolved as quickly as possible. Great news, ladies and gentlemen. They're located in downtown Wilmington and just a phone call away at 910-251-6088, or you can visit them online at lawgroupnc.com. Give them a call, 910-251-6088, or visit their website, lawgroupnc.com. The Law Group, experience and dedication you can rely on. We appreciate their continued support of The Nick Craig Show. All right, quick break. We'll be back right after this as The Nick Craig Show rolls on a Friday morning, streaming live on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and available 24/7 wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to the Nick Craig Show. Thanks for spending some time with us today as we continue running through a press conference hosted by Tom Homan. He is the White House border czar as it relates to ICE operations, immigration and customs enforcement in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I guess maybe more accurate to say across the state as a whole. Most of the operations taking place in Minneapolis. However, as the situation has gotten definitely out of control over the last couple of weeks, Tom Homan talking about meeting with state and local officials to try and make these operations, which he noted multiple times will continue, make them more efficient, more effective, and even mentioned, hey, if this situation continues to improve, we need less agents on the ground if there's more cooperation with local officials. And you heard me mention this just a little bit ago. It takes two to tango with this. Everybody wants to be all outraged at the Trump administration and point all their fingers at the president and blame him and Greg Bovino and everybody else and Kristi Noem for what's going on. This is a two-way street. Local officials have to be willing to engage in the discussion and conversation as well. And over the past couple of weeks, we have not seen that in Minnesota. We have not seen that in Minneapolis. We have seen press conference after press conference, social media post after social media post of these individuals saying they do not support federal law enforcement. They don't even call them federal law enforcement. They need to get out of the city. They're not supposed to be here. They're making our city less safe. This is a two-way street, ladies and gentlemen. We've heard now from the administration what the plan is, and I'm going to be very curious in the coming days to see if local officials practice what they preach, or apparently what they told to border czar Tom Homan. More from his press conference Thursday morning in Minneapolis.
That's traditionally been the case, and that's where we're going. That's what we're going to continue to do and improve upon that. With a prioritization on public safety threats. I want to be clear. I don't read a lot of social media. I don't read a lot of media. I don't believe half what I see. We are not surrendering the president's mission in immigration enforcement. Let's make that clear. Prioritization of criminal aliens doesn't mean that we forget about everybody else. That's just simply ridiculous. But when you have a criminal standing here and a non-criminal standing there, that criminal always should be targeted first because he's a significant concern to the safety and security of the community. By at large for decades, ICE and CBP have carried out their duties with integrity, professionalism, and compassion. That remains the expectation under President Trump, and I will hold our agents and officers to that standard. I'm almost done, then Tom can be Tom. As far as the agitators, that said, I want to reiterate and make very clear. I want to make it clear, ICE and CBP officers are performing their duties in a challenging environment under tremendous circumstances, but they're trying to do it with professionalism. If they don't, they'll be dealt with. Like any other federal agency, we have standards of conduct. They are sworn law enforcement officers working tirelessly to enforce our country's border security and immigration laws, protecting the interests of our country and preventing dangerous people from walking the streets of this nation when they're not supposed to be here to begin with. Men and women of ICE, I was a Border Patrol agent. I was an ICE agent. I was the first ICE director that came up through the ranks. I spent over 40 years doing this. These men and women that carry that badge and gun are American patriots. They put themselves on the line for this nation every day. But I want you to remember, they don't hang their badge, they don't hang their heart on a hook every day they come to work. They're mothers and fathers too. They're sons and daughters too. And if they've seen a fraction of the tragedies I've seen in my career, they take a lot of damage home to every day. The things they've seen, especially on the border with Border Patrol agents. People drowning in the river. Women being raped by criminal cartels, giving CPR to a baby that was thrown in the river by the cartels because Border Patrol came too close. So let's throw the baby in the river. That way the Border Patrol was concentrating on that so I can get away. These men and women see some terrible things. But I want you to remember, they're mothers and fathers too. Many of them are members of this community.
And you know, this is something that I've continually referenced and mentioned, the dehumanizing nature of rhetoric that is used by the left. They have, for months now, I mean, actually 9 months, it's almost been a year. It's been a little over a year since the president's been in the Oval Office, and these operations kicked off pretty quickly after he was sworn in as the 47th president. This has continued to be the case. ICE, they are the Gestapo, they are Nazis. It is dehumanizing nature, and I very much like the fact that Tom Homan reiterates the fact that everybody should already know, yeah, these are real people too. They have families. They have children. They have loved ones. The left doesn't seem to care about that. It is completely gone from any of the discussion that they have. The real human impact and toll of all of this stuff. Some of these guys have been deployed there for weeks, having these moronic protesters throw things at them, spit in their face, blow whistles, use their cars to obstruct the work that they're doing. These are real people. And if you want to just completely ignore the human element of this, you're a moron. I'm sorry to say it, but it's the truth. There is a human element of this. And on the flip side, there's a human element for the people in Minneapolis. They don't want ICE agents roaming their streets, but there's a good solution to it. Tom Homan already laid it out. If you don't want to see ICE roaming the streets conducting these operations, then your local officials, your mayor, your governor has to work with us to transport these individuals before they get back out on the streets. You will hear this consistently from me. This is a give and take thing. Both parties have to be willing. It would appear blatantly obvious to me that the federal government is willing. The question is, from my vantage point, are the state officials willing to do the same thing? And that remains to be seen as of right now.
God bless every one of them. The hostile rhetoric and dangerous threats and hate must stop.
Amen,
and
Tom.
we all agreed to that. All everybody met here today, we got to stop the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric that has caused an increase in assaults. That has caused, because of that, have to send security teams out with arrest teams, which surge the city with additional resources because of the rhetoric, because of the threats, because of the assaults. Again, with the agreements we've achieved and following through the agreements, with the rhetoric dropping down, that allows us to pull more agents out once we feel the environment safer. I begged for the last 2 months on TV for the rhetoric to stop. I said in March if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been. I wish I wasn't right. I don't want to see anybody die. Not officers, not members of the community, and not the targets of our operations.
And this is exactly what needs to continue to be driven home. We have heard nothing but reaction from the left about the Renee Good and the Alex Purdy situation over the last couple of weeks. And I can now accurately say to you that the ball is in their court. Tom Homan just laid out the process, just laid out the procedure. You've got to work with us on these violent, criminal, illegal aliens that are already in custody before you just turn them loose back out onto the streets. Work with us so that we can do our job and tone down the rhetoric. And so now the left is at a crossroads. They can either do what they say they want, which is to lower the not lower the rhetoric, but they can get these operations concluded and conducted. They can allow this stuff to play out in a much more streamlined fashion if they're willing to loosen the rhetoric, stop going on national television and claiming that the ICE members roaming our city are akin to the Nazis of Germany back in the 1930s. If they're willing to lower some of that rhetoric and work with people like Tom Homan, work with ICE, work with Border Patrol, this problem probably solves itself pretty quickly. The ball is in their court, and it is going to be very interesting to see if they're willing to actually practice what they claim they want, which is to end these operations and get these individuals out of their cities. As you just heard from Tom Homan, it will happen, but the left has got to be willing to give some on this. And so if they do, I think we see things begin to improve pretty dramatically. If not, then the chaos continues. If not, you're going to continue to see this play out the way in which it has already. More from Tom Homan.
For the people out there who don't like what ICE is doing, if you want certain laws reformed, then take it up with Congress. Again, ICE is making this up. They're enforcing laws enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The same laws have been on the books for the last 6 presidents I worked for. I started with President Reagan and ending with President Trump. Every administration, we enforce the same laws. If you don't like what ICE is doing, instead of protesting this building, go protest Congress. Tell me we want changes.
Amen to that. It's been my argument the entire time. You don't have to like immigration law. You can think it's stupid. You can think it's the immigration system is broken. The same diatribes you hear all the time from the left. If you don't like it, go petition Congress to change it. If not, then it's going to remain the law, and it's going to remain the status quo as it stands. That's how that's how a nation works. Rules, law, and order. You don't like the rules, you don't like the laws, you don't like the way things are doing, go through the proper vehicles and avenues to change it. In this case, it's going to Washington, D.C. and having Congress make a change. And if Democrats are so pissed off about this, well, they had control of the Oval Office and Congress for 2 years between 2020 and 2022. And so if they wanted to solve and fix all of these problems, they had the ability to do so. Don't pin it on this administration that they're enforcing laws, as you just heard from Tom Homan, that have essentially been the same now for the last 6 presidents that he's worked for.
You have your First Amendment rights, and I support that. You have the right to protest. I'm just asking you to keep it peaceful. But threatening law enforcement officers, engaging in impeding and obstruction and assault is never okay. And there will be zero tolerance. You interfere, impede, assault ICE officers, you will be arrested. Like I said a bit earlier in my meetings with Governor Walz and Ellison and Frey, as well as state and local law enforcement, I appreciate they acknowledge this, that public safety should be paramount. The chiefs I've talked to committed to responding to 911 calls when protesters turn violent, agents are in a dangerous situation, and there's assaults. They have committed to upholding public safety and responding to the needs, not to enforce immigration law, but to keep the peace.
And by the way, how insane is it that that has not been the case? And as you heard me say just a little bit ago, there's fault and blame on both sides. Local PD has been ignoring calls from the federal government on things like crowd control, which ICE is not in the business of. They're in the business of enforcing federal immigration law. Local and state police are in the business of crowd control. You saw with your own 2 eyes last Saturday what an out-of-control, chaotic situation looks like. When local police stand by and don't do anything, and that puts these federal authorities in a position where they have to protect themselves. So that, if it comes to fruition, which fingers crossed that it will, would be a major step in de-escalating the situation in Minneapolis.
For that, I call upon those officials to stand shoulder to shoulder with us to tone down the dangerous rhetoric and condemn all unlawful action against law enforcement in the community. There are many ways your voice can be heard, express your feelings, and affect change in the country without crossing that line. Political and other disagreements in this realm should not be at the expense of public safety or the safety of federal law enforcement officers. In closing, I want to thank the state and local officials here in Minnesota that I met with and the many I'm going to meet with. We've had meaningful dialogue. And look, again, we didn't agree on everything, but we agreed on the things I just talked about. There's much more we can do. And I'm going to continue this dialogues. I got many more community leaders to talk to. I got many more sheriffs to meet. President Trump wants this fixed, and I'm going to fix it with your help.
So there's the commentary there from the border czar, Tom Homan, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Thursday morning, talking about the situation playing out. And the ball is in the court of Governor Tim Walz, Mayor Frey, Attorney General Ellison, the local police chiefs, many of which Tom Homan indicated he's going to continue to meet with. The federal government is essentially doing what you want them to do. They're not pulling out forces. They're not stopping and shuttering the operations. They want the coordination. You've been begging for weeks now to coordinate with the federal government, to coordinate with the federal government, to coordinate with the federal government. Here's your opportunity. And it's going to be very telling to see as we head into the weekend and see, kind of what takes place in the coming days, if those individuals truly mean what they say. And if they don't, if the situation continues, if the rhetoric continues, if the lack of local law enforcement and state law enforcement continues, then nothing is going to change in Minneapolis. And I can promise you what's going to happen. More people are going to be shot and killed, and more outrage is going to continue. ICE is there to do a job. They have the legal authority to do the job. You can either work with them or allow them to do the entire thing. Those are your two options that are available. The olive branch has been extended from this administration via Tom Homan to allow these operations to conduct in some sort of unified manner. And so if you're willing to take that, great. If not, shut the hell up about it. If not, more citizens are probably, unfortunately, going to find themselves in harm's way. Because a lot of this is being egged on by the governor, by the mayor, by cable news, by these left-wing hacks that work in media all across America. You guys claim you're so mortified about people getting shot and killed. Okay, I agree with you. I don't like it either. So use this opportunity to listen to Tom Homan, listen to the administration, and follow what they ask. Give it a shot. If you're unwilling to do that, then you're a dishonest broker of truth. And at that point, I don't really care what you think. I'm not listening to your pandering anymore. I'm not listening to your outrage. I'm just not going to play by that game anymore. So we'll see, again, what happens in the immediate future of this as Tom Homan remains on the ground, continues to meet with state and local officials. So, turning our attention now to what is going on locally across southeastern North Carolina and really the state as a whole, a winter storm warning has been issued for all 100 counties in North Carolina, which is something that you do not see very often. Almost all of South Carolina under the same warnings as well until you get way south down towards the Charleston area, portions of Georgia under that warning as well, the mountains of Tennessee and portions of southern Virginia, but all 100 counties in North Carolina under a winter storm warning on what is expected to be a major winter weather event affecting the state as we head into the day tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Friday, we are expecting to see this winter weather affect our area throughout the day on Saturday. And it's been a long time in Wilmington since we've talked about an event of this potential magnitude. I caught this great graphic over at WECT News this morning. The last time that we saw 5 inches of snow was January the 25th, 2000. The last time that we saw 6+ inches of snow, which I'll note is a possibility. It's not 100%. But there's at least an opportunity of that. The last time that happened, December 22nd through 24th, 1989. You've got to go back nearly 40 years for the last time Wilmington, the airport exactly, saw 6 inches or 6+ inches of snow. There's a great graphic that is out from the National Weather Service here in Wilmington showing what the percent chances are of some of these different snowfall amounts. So as we head into 1 inch, 100% likelihood of at least that. We are going to see some snow here across southeastern North Carolina, 100% across the board for 1 inch. At 2 inches, 99% chance there as well. 4 inches, that's when the percentages start to drop a little bit, about an 83% chance. 6 inches, however, I'll note, almost a 70% chance still of 6+ inches worth of snowfall. 8 inches, it's a 50-50 shot, according to the National Weather Service here in Wilmington, and about a 20% chance of those snowfall totals getting upwards of a foot. The models, typically in this time frame, the models should be coming into alignment. The GFS model, the American model, which I'll note botched the winter weather last weekend, that model is now showing significantly lower snowfalls across Wilmington and southeastern North Carolina, only an inch or two. The European model is continuing pretty consistent with that range of, according to the National Weather Service, anywhere between about, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of snow possibly across the region. The time frame on this, conditions and everything will start to deteriorate about midday tomorrow. So if you've got anything that you need to get done today, obviously Friday is the best day for that. Early tomorrow morning, still a possibility as well. But as we get towards lunchtime, midday, and into the early afternoon, the snow is going to pick up. It will snow all through the remainder of Saturday into early parts of Sunday morning before things move out of here. I'm waiting to see if there's a new update from the National Weather Service. They put out these PowerPoint presentations, and I guess not. They're typically comes out around 8 or 8:30, so I guess we'll just continue to wait on that. But we are still looking at the possibility of some significant snowfall across the state as we head into this weekend. Again, a winter storm warning in effect for Saturday and Sunday. So that is kind of what we're looking at. Funny comment coming in on our Rumble live chat. It cracks me up that Europe gets our weather better than we can. The European model tends to just do a better job with winter weather. It just does. There's certain models that have what is called the bias or biases as it relates to that, and we can look at some of that here as we round out our program here on a Friday morning. Apologize to those listening that you won't be able to actually see what we're looking at here, but I'll do my best to describe it. So this is the European model as we head through portions of Saturday and Sunday, and we can see pretty clearly here that things will start to deteriorate, and we will see some of this snowfall begin and continue to move through the area. This is the most recent European model, and this is showing some pretty small snowfall totals as well. So maybe the possibility that we don't end up seeing maybe that much at all, but nevertheless, that is kind of what we are looking at right now. This most recent run of the European model is not showing the heavier snowfall totals that we are looking at. However, again, the possibility remains we will see some snow. We will see at least an inch. We could see 4, 5, maybe even 6 or 7 inches possible as well. This is a very dynamic system, so we will see some snowfall this weekend throughout the day on Saturday. We'll keep an eye on it. If conditions require it, I'll jump on here. We'll do a little bit of a live show, maybe keeping an eye on what's going on there. The New Hanover County Emergency Management is holding a press conference at 2 o'clock. Governor Josh Stein has declared a state of emergency. And he is expected to have another press conference throughout the day today as well. So that is what we are looking at right now. A little bit of uncertainty on the totals. That is unfortunately the game for many of you that come from the Northeast. You are very familiar with the weather, the snowfall prediction game. It is not by any stretch of the imagination an exact science. So we'll wait and see. Looking at the HRRR model, this is one that does a really good job in the immediate term, and it's unfortunately not far enough out in terms of its hours yet to see what things are going to look like. One of these should be, I guess it's the 0Z model. So you're seeing some of these snowfall totals. So we'll just keep an eye on it. Don't make any plans this weekend as the weather is probably going to be less than ideal. We'll keep an eye on it right here on the Nick Craig Show. That's going to do it for another busy week. A lot of great programs this week. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to the Law Group here in Wilmington for their continued support as well. You can visit them online at lawgroupnc.com or give them a call, 910-251-6088. That's going to do it for a Friday edition of the Nick Craig Show. The program streams live weekday mornings, 7 a.m., YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook. It's also available 24/7 in your favorite podcast app. You can also listen to the program weeknights, 9 to 10 p.m. on Charlotte's FM News Talk, 107.9 WBT. Have a great weekend, a safe weekend. We'll be back with you Monday morning right here for the Nick Craig Show.